So let's have a look at Ansible ad hoc tasks. So as with anything in Ansible, whether it be an ad hoc task or a playbook, you're going to start with an inventory file. So in here, I have two inventory files. I've got the classic inventory file where you have the group name in square brackets and then the servers in that group. And if you had multiple groups in here, you would have different square brackets starting under localhost here that might say web servers, etc., etc. Equally, I have a JSON version of an inventory file, and here it is broken into computer readable format. Now, what's quite interesting about JSON is it's more commonly used if you're doing like dynamic inventories, which is where you can write code to dynamically generate you a file like this, or execute something while running your playbook that will create you a dynamic inventory. And it's more used when the inventory is made by a computer as opposed to you typing one out. Most people I know wouldn't just go and write out JSON like this, but you could. Ansible will take either. It doesn't really matter which one you choose. So the first example I'm going to demonstrate today, the easiest one I think for a beginner to use, is the shell module. And the reason why it's the easiest is because if you've got bash scripts that you're just write very simple commands into, the shell module is where you may start. Now, I don't recommend actually when you get good at Ansible that you use the shell module very often, because the modules that Ansible have written give you better outputs, give you better safeguards, and just ensure that things are done properly. But the shell module is there, and that's what I'm going to use for this first demonstration. So here is the documentation on the shell module. Now, the documentation in Ansible is brilliant. It's got very, very good examples at the bottom of the file. It gives all the parameters that you may need. Now, obviously, you can change to which version of Ansible you're using. And here are some of the parameters that you're using. So in our example, we're not going to go through all these parameters. This is a very quick 101. We're going to be using the command parameter. Now, the command parameter can be just used on its own. If it is used on its own, you don't even need to prefix it with a command syntax in the output that we're doing. So if we scroll down to the bottom here, we've got some examples. So as you can see here, now the examples that Ansible give are always in playbook format, but I want to show you how you can use the format here and also the format in the arguments at the top to do something in an ad hoc task. So this first one is just going to run this. Now, what's quite interesting about this, you can see there's no command prefix like here. It's just the command. And that's what I mean, where you don't need to prefix it with command. If you're doing anything else, so if you need to actually run this command from a specific directory like here, you are going to need to prefix it so that Ansible knows what is what. So what we're going to do is just run the command. We're going to pull the uname out of a couple of servers, and I'm going to show you a couple of gotchas. So if I go ahead and type in Ansible, we're going to be using a -i for an inventory file. The inventory file that we're going to use, we could either use inventory or inventory.json. I'm just going to use the normal inventory file. We're going to use the all group in here. If that was called web servers, I would type web servers here. We're going to be using a -m, which is for the module. Now, I just showed you the shell module, which is what we're going to be using, and then a -a for the arguments that we wish to pass to this module. Now, in here, we could type cmd equals and type out the command. We don't need to do that. We can just type the command. So if I do a uname -a, this is going to fail. And the reason this is going to fail is I haven't set up any authentication. There's no keys. I'm not giving it a password. It doesn't know how to authenticate to these servers. For the purpose of this, I'm going to do a -k, which is for password-based authentication. If you want a video on setting up SSH keys, I will link to one in this video. However, in this example, I'm just going to use password-based authentication. And then I'm going to put in the password. This is okay if every server has the same password. If they have different passwords, then you are limited to SSH keys only. Now, I've typed my password in here. Now, I'm going to press enter, and one of these servers is still going to fail. And you can see that here. And the reason this server has failed is I'm not using SSH keys and I have host key checking enabled. I've got two options here. I can either disable host key checking, or I can actually go and make sure that I can log into this server, or at least get past the prompt that has the host key checking part. So before I do that, we can see here that the output has happened. This is the uname from this server here. This is the uname from this server here. So we've got one here that's using a 3.10 kernel. We've got a 4.18 kernel. We've got another 4.18 kernel. This first one it doesn't know because it could not authenticate to it. So localhost, if I SSH that, the reason you're getting that warning is this, and we've all seen this the first time we've logged into a server. Now, if you're working with servers you're using day in, day out, you're never going to see this. So I added localhost just to show you this problem. If I just type yes, okay, it's added it to my list of known hosts now. If I go and run this again and put in my password, what we'll notice is I do not get that error anymore. So as long as it is in your known hosts, you'll be fine. The next thing we get is some warnings. Now we can again hide warnings in an Ansible configuration file. And this is basically just saying that we're using a Python interpreter that is a bit old. They want us to use Python 3. We're using 2.9 on these two servers here. Again, you can hide the warnings, or you can see the warnings. To me, it's not really a big issue. So we can see here now this last server again is another 3.10 kernel. Okay, so we've got two 3.10 kernels and two 4.18 kernels. So that is uname-a, quite useful. And you can do whatever you want. If you wanted to see which version of bash is installed, put my password in again. Sorry, that will give all the files. If I did a -i, it will give me for every single server which version of bash is using. And you can use that to do any command on all the servers. So that's the first thing. It's quite informative. You can get some good information out of that. One step further than that is to actually do something a little bit more meaningful. So if I come over here, this here is the package manager. Now, the Ansible package manager is quite powerful in that assuming that the package that you're trying to install is the same version, same name, so HTTPD versus Apache 2, you've got a few extra things to do if you're doing something between Ubuntu and a Red Hat derived operating system. However, if they're the same, like bash, you can use the package manager instead of the apt manager and do a where OS equals, Debian derived, etc. You can just use package and it will try and work it out for you, and it does a very good job. Okay, so we're going to use the package manager today. As I explained earlier, in a previous role that I had to go and upgrade bash on a lot of servers, thousands of servers. Now, I could have written a script and wrapped that in a for loop and typed my password out thousands of times, or made sure I had SSH keys. In the real world, that's not really something that is easy to do, and I don't have my SSH keys everywhere all the time. So I did it as an ad hoc command. Okay, I used the package manager. Okay, and I just said make sure that bash is at the latest version. So if we scroll down here, we can see the parameters. Okay, now in this example, I'm actually using multiple parameters. So I'm not going to be able to just do, one thing in those quotes at the end. I need the name and I need the state. Both of these things are required, we can see here. So we can use the name, and then we've got three possible options for the state: present, absent, or latest. Now, present is obviously very good if you're trying to do something and you just need to make sure that a version is on the server. Use present, don't use latest. Latest will always make sure it's on the latest version. You may not always want that. You may want to just make sure that there is a version on there, and then move on to the next task in a playbook or something like that. So back to our terminal, we can do a Ansible, well, in fact, we can just go up. Ansible-i inventory again, all. Instead of the shell command, we're going to use the package module. And in our arguments, we're going to do a couple of things. Now, unfortunately, I can't demonstrate the Bash upgrade on these servers as they are running the latest version of Bash, but there is one thing that they're not running, and that is the latest version of OpenSSL. So in order to do that, we need two things. We need their name and the state. So if I do the state of latest and the name of OpenSSL and do a -K, put in my password, that will go onto all of those servers and upgrade OpenSSL where there is an upgrade available. And here we have it. Let's go and install HTTPD. All of these servers are Red Hat derived operating systems, and therefore HTTPD would be the correct name for the web server. So let's go ahead and install the latest version of Apache onto all of these servers. And there we go, it's done, and it was that quick. Again, if we didn't want them, instead of doing latest, we can do absent. So absent will remove packages, something like Telnet. If you've got Telnet on all of your servers and you're trying to, become compliant to some standards, and Telnet is a standard that you mustn't have running, the application mustn't be installed on servers. Set the state to absent. Put in Telnet instead of HTTPD in this example, it will go away and remove Telnet from all of those servers. And there we have it. So that's very, very simple ad hoc commands. I hope that's been useful. If you've got any questions or comments, please leave it in the comments below, and I will get to them as soon as I can. Thank you very much for taking the time. If you liked the video, please like it. Subscribe to my channel for more updates. And if you want notifications for all new videos that I make, please just hit that notification bell on the side. Thank you. Bye-bye.